It is, what time is it? 9:29 on the Mike Calta show. It's 102.5 The Bone. Oh, man. I feel like a big whirlwind was a tornado was in here for the past hour, and it was great. Tim Meadows is in the studio with us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm your respite. From
Yeah, the relaxed. Yeah, it was a great show, a great hour, and I was very much looking forward to you coming in here today. And I wondered if you guys were going to cross over and what that was going to be like.
We did cross over.
Yeah.
But he didn't. I don't think he recognized me. I don't think he knew who I was.
Gotcha.
And I think he was busy.
Yeah, well, he is a Bear Margera is a tornado of a human being, so he probably blew out and didn't even realize what was going on. He was great. I enjoyed meeting him and having him on the show, but it's great to have you here today.
Thanks.
It's been some time. I don't know. You probably don't remember. We weren't in this building, but you have been on the show before, and were a very good guest and very funny as you would expect, but also had a good twitch of anger going through your body because you were going through a divorce at the time. Wow. You and Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall are the two guys who hate their ex-wife more than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Wow. And Dave Foley and I have talked.
Oh, have you really?
We've like helped each other and crying.
No kidding.
Support group.
Yeah. I don't hate my ex-wife. I'll let me just go back.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. I said that, okay. Not you. Yeah.
I think I was just going. I think the situation at the time, it was new for me, and I just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so, as you sort of learn, like, because you're dealing with people, and people have issues, and you have to learn how to deal with what they are going through. And I became a little more empathetic to her.
Yeah.
And also I became more forgiving to about my own mistakes and stuff.
How long were you married?
I was married we were together for about 10, 11 years.
So that's some time.
Yeah. But we were married for 7 and a half. Yeah. And we have 2 kids from that. And it's all better now because they're old. My kids are older.
How old, like college years?
Yeah, college years. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes things easier. Kids ruin everything. Kids, I love my kids, but they have ruined my life in every aspect of it. Yeah. We used to be fun. We used to go out and do stuff. And now all we do is stuff with these stupid kids, and they cost money, and it's just the worst.
How old are your kids now?
My son is 17. He's a 17-year-old who looks like a 34-year-old Puerto Rican man. I don't even know who his father is or what's going on. And my daughter is 10 years old, and she's the sweetest, most loving little girl who will be a serial killer when she gets older. She has a psycho in her she's me, and my son is my wife. We split them right down the middle. But I'm very lucky. I have 2 great kids, but they do ruin a lot of your adult life.
Well, financially, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Just don't think like, oh, they're gonna get older and get a job and go. They're not.
No.
They're gonna even my son now, he graduated from college. I gave him a nice substantial gift as a graduation, was money. And he got an apartment in DC. And then he called me and said he had to get an Airbnb for 6 weeks because the apartment wouldn't be ready.
Right.
And I said, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So what's up? And he was like, I was wondering if you could maybe take care of the Airbnb. I was like, no. I go, no.
Yeah.
You're a man now. You have a job.
I gave you money.
I don't bail you out unless you really need it.
Right.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to say no.
You're right. My son just started his first job a couple of days ago. He's only worked 1 shift so far. He worked at a pizza place, and he made 275 meatballs. But he's very proud of his meatballs. So I'm like, all right, he likes to work. So this is good. I was a really poor kid. I grew up in New York, and I had 2 jobs in high school. So I never wanted that for my kids. But now I'm like, okay, go get a goddamn job. I'm sick of paying for your weed.
I tell my son too, like my youngest one, like I don't care what you do. I want you to get a job like McDonald's or whatever. He'll go out and because they don't do it like we used to do, where you go to the place and you apply. Hi, I'm Tim. I work here. They do it online. And he was telling me, well, I applied online. I'm like, no, like you got to go in there and show them that you want a job so bad. You're going to do what other people aren't doing.
Yeah.
You're going to come in and actually meet the, man.
It only takes a minute amount of effort because everybody's doing it online.
Yeah. You'll stand out because you're doing it differently. But yeah, man, he'll tell me, and I don't talk too much about it, but my youngest one is just like, according to him, there are no jobs out there.
Right.
There's no one's hiring.
Yeah,
in New York.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't find a job.
Yeah, that's so funny. How old is he?
He just turned 20.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, 20.
I had a conversation with my because I have a son and a daughter. My son's older, and I said to my daughter, I go, like, sent my son to a concert called Rolling Loud in Miami. It's all hip hop stuff, and he went down there for the weekend. And he's 17 years old. And that was a big move, but he did good. He came back, and I looked at my daughter and I said, "When you're 17, you will never get this opportunity." I said, "Don't ask. It's unfair. The world's an unfair place. I don't know what you want." But I said, "But the bottom line is, I like you more than him, so I don't want anything to happen to you."
Because you care. Yeah,
I like you way more. If something happened to him, I'd be like, "Well, like he was around for a while. I got another one, you know."
Yeah, he should be able to take care of himself too.
Yeah, yeah. He's a big kid too, so he's all right. Yeah.
I would say if I had daughters, I would let them do it as a group. Like if you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, yeah, you and
The pack will look out for each other.
yes, 15 other girls, all, ankle braced together.
Right.
Don't separate from each other,
They come together and form a shield. They'll be
Yes,
fine.
exactly.
Yeah. This is Tim Meadows. Tim is doing comedy at Side Splitters this weekend. You do this, you stay fresh, go out and do a lot of comedy, go out on the road a lot.
Yeah, it's been especially because we've been on strike.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get out to make a little moolah.
Right.
And then also it was just good getting out after COVID when things opening up again and people are coming out and feeling comfortable.
Because I would imagine with your schedule on Saturday Night Live that you don't get the freedom to do this at all.
No, I'm not on SNL anymore.
Oh, you're not. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I it's hard for me to stay awake at 52 years old to Saturday Night Live. I live through, like everybody else, clips on TV. But I mean, you were at Saturday Night Live forever.
Yes.
So
I can understand how you would think that I'm still there.
I mean, look, it's you and Keenan. One of you is there.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're there though, doing the schedule during your time, you can't go out and do road stuff because you start early in the week to do the show, right?
Yeah. And it was harder than I wasn't doing stand up when I was on SNL though. But
no,
I know those guys were. I
Right.
mean, it would be harder for them. They would go out on our weeks off.
Yeah.
Or they would go out to LA and do
the weeknight. Stuff.
do that stuff. But and like Norm Macdonald used to go out and do weekend update jokes at comedy clubs.
Try them out.
Yeah.
So can I, if you don't mind, can I take you back to the beginning and you tell me how you got there to Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
Where'd you started? Would you go to college? Were you doing stuff in college or?
In the beginning, this is how it started. Remember Ted Knight on Mary Tyler Moore?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. It started in a 50-watt radio station in Southern Minnesota. I used to love that.
Yeah.
But it started for me. I was just a big fan of comedy. I really loved comedy, and I was a big fan of, like, when I was younger, like Mel Brooks movies.
Yeah.
I mean, just to the point that I knew every line probably in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times. And then also like Richard Pryor and stand-up comics and that kind of stuff. But then the thing that really affected me was SNL, National Lampoon, Monty Python. Those
who was your SNL cast? Like the original cast or after that? Yeah.
Yeah. Bill Murray, Chevy Chase.
I was on the tail end of that. I watched it when I was very young. Didn't think I understood a lot of that. And then as it developed, I watched it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew that I wanted to do something in entertainment because if that was a job, I wanted a job like that.
Yeah. I couldn't even. Yeah. I mean, when I got my first paycheck, my head almost exploded. I was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this on this show.
Yeah.
Like this show that I watched forever.
That's why I wanted to ask you about the beginning, because you were very in person, a very reserved guy. Well, even on TV. But so I don't see you as being loud and funny and goofy and funny, but yet very funny and very smart. And so like you hear about all these great people who tried out for Saturday Night Live and didn't get it. What was it about you that you like? What was your audition?
Well, I did improv in Detroit. I studied with this amazing teacher in Chicago named Dale Close, who's just everyone knows in comedy knows him. And then I got hired by Second City Theater really quickly. And then SNL came and set too.
Okay.
And as we did it, I realized I was in a lot of scenes with Chris because he and I were best friends and we wrote and improvised together all the time. So we had a bunch of scenes together. So it was impossible for the SNL people to not notice me
Right.
when they
You
came
were
to see
there.
Chris.
Yeah.
And I think I maybe made Chris laugh on stage at one point during these nights, because we would go at it with each other too and just try to throw each other off. But
boy, I got to tell you, by all accounts, having to go head to head with Farley in that situation must have been you were super talented to hang because everybody says he's the best at doing that.
he was the best, but he also didn't. He cared less. Like he cared less. He really liked making the audience laugh, whereas I cared about getting the show done and the scene and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Bob Odenkirk, wrote the motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And he has this great quote, which is that, and it's true, we got to watch the funniest man in the world perform the funniest sketch in the world every night for like a year. And every night that Chris did motivational speaker, I played the son, the kid in it.
Yeah.
The writer who smoked weed, which they took from my real life. But he would just build the scene up every night that we would do it. So like Friday nights, we had to do 2 shows. So the first show, we just tried to get through it quickly because we had to do turnover.
Right.
Motivational speaker, we was like, nope, let's speed through everything so we can let motivational speaker breathe. And Chris, he would do things with, like, he'd be taking his jacket off really fast and he'd ball it up and throw it on the ground. He would whip his head around and whip his glasses across the room. And he would pick me up, like, because he'd go, oh, yeah, I'm going to move in with you. You're not going to be roommates. We're going to be pals. We're going to be buddies. And on stage, he would pick me up out of my chair and just twirl me around, just
like a baby.
And then he would put me back in my chair. And then he would, the best line was, he would go, yeah, what was it? He go, okay, yeah, I'm going to go sleep in your room now. Because I don't want to live in a van down by the river or something like that. And then we'd look at each other and go, lock the door. We go and shut lock it up.
God, that must have been such a fun.
It was so fun, man. I love that guy. I love him so much.
Yeah.
I can't even tell.
Everybody that knows him says that. Jay Moore talks about him like, if you could have spent all the years you want on Saturday Night Live, but you will never know what it's like to be there when Farley was there.
Yeah. and at Second City too. I mean, at Second City, it was just us. We didn't have writers coming in and telling us like, oh, this is,
right.
It was all our material. So you had the license to do whatever you wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, just watching him, perform and improvise. Like he did Jackie Gleason on stage at Second City one time. Him and this other actor, Joe List, and they were doing The Honeymooners. And at one point, Chris was, the idea of the sketch was that Jackie Gleason's character was tired of his wife and he was going to put mushrooms in her tea, make her trip.
Right.
And then we did it. He did it. And then, on every sitcom, there's a reverse where you apologize for what you've done wrong.
Right.
Or whatever. And Chris did that part of the sketch where he was Jackie Gleason, but he did it so it was so moving.
Right.
He really apologized to her in character. And he was just like, I'm sorry, I put the mushrooms in your tea and I love you. And it was so like, and it was going, this dude is really good. It was no doubt. He was the best.
Man. What a shame. What a shame that his life was cut so short. I remember when he passed away, I was working in a radio station that had a news station along with it, and the news guy was probably in his 70s, and he dipped out in the hall and he goes, who's Chris Farley? And I go, oh, from Saturday Night Live. He goes, I go, why? He goes, he passed away. And I went, oh my God. He goes, okay. He goes, I wasn't sure if I should break in with it or not. I go, oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so sad, but I'll never forget. It was one of the early, I felt bad when he died. I felt bad when Kurt Cobain died. There were people that I was attached to. Farley wrote to me one time on, do you remember Prodigy? Before America Online, Prodigy was like kind of thing, and they gave us all, radio people all had their own things, and if you ended in 01, if your name was Mike Calta 01, that was the original, like having a blue check mark.
Right.
So Saturday Night Live cast members had one, and I had posted in a Rush Limbaugh had a TV show at the time, and I posted in a
message board.
Saturday Night Live message board.
Yeah.
How are they not having Farley do a Rush Limbaugh thing? And he wrote me back. I hear in his voice. I heard, yeah, that's a great idea. Look out for it. And I went, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So
and then he did it.
And then he did it. Yeah.
He did it, and it was really funny. It was the rushing laws, passing laws quickly.
Right. I feel like I should get some sort of credit for that.
Writing.
One of my, I'm sorry.
No.
One of my other favorite memories of Chris is like when we were at Second City. You do a lot of changes, quick changes.
Right.
You get to put on other costumes and play characters. And he was just a mess. He would always just throw his stuff into a pile, and we just would call that Chris's pile of costumes and clothes. And when he had to do a quick change, he would pick up, go through, and then put it on and run out. And I told him, I said, dude, you got to set your stuff up because you're going to have us out there waiting for you to come out for a scene or whatever. And he was like, I don't care. And then he came off a scene, and I was backstage. Our cubby holes were next to each other. He comes off stage, and he had to take off a shirt and then put on another shirt and a suit jacket. And he put the shirt on, and he's just talking to me because we can hear the dialogue on stage, and he's just like, "Look, Timmy, I'm getting my set. I'm setting up for my next sketch." And then he grabs the suit jacket, but he had taken it off so that the sleeves inside out. And then we hear his cue line is coming, and he's like, "Oh my God!" Can't get the jacket on, and then he's like caught, like hey, you do big guy, little guy.
He's stuck in the jacket.
Stuck in the jacket, and he goes, Timmy. I laughed. So I was just laughing, and then you can hear his cue and say, they were like, "Where's the delivery guy?"
Where can he be?
And he was just like this, and then he just went like Hulk. It just ripped through his jacket.
That's so awesome.
It was so, help me, Timmy, help me.
You know who I feel bad for is his brother Kevin, because he looks so much like Chris. It's hard to have him in here and not want to just talk of him and think of him as Chris,
Yeah. Their energies are different, though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, they're different guys.
Yeah.
But Tim Meadows is here with us. You know him from what's the official count? How many years from Saturday Night Live?
I did 10 years on SNL. 10 years.
In only 10 years? Does it seem longer? It seems longer to me.
Recently on the Goldbergs. Which that was great. That was great on there.
10 years on Goldberg.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's completely done now, right?
That is done. Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of the cancel, one guy gets an accusation, and is that why that all goes out?
No.
Okay.
So we did a season and a half without him. Without Jeff. Yeah.
That's weird. Great. What a great show.
I'm only laughing because they killed him off on the show.
Yeah.
And it was like it wasn't on camera, or it wasn't even like a story. It was just, Dad's
he's
dead. We don't know. Oh, he's dead. Yeah, let's just say he's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead.
That's so funny. That was a great show. Goldberg.
It was fun to do too.
Such great characters on that show. That older brother was great. The young kid was good. The family. I mean, and then Brian Callen, the gym teacher. That was really a good show.
Yeah,
and
Brian and I had a lot of fun together.
Brian's a good dude, man. That to me is like one of the last. I'll watch that in reruns, but when it was on, I would watch it while it was on, and that's like one of the last shows I think I did that with.
Yeah,
because there's really now the pattern of watching television is so different than it was when we were kids that I don't even know. Like my kid had a 52-inch TV in his room from the time we moved in this house 6 years ago. Never turned it on and asked me to take it out because it was taking up too much space. And that's the truth, because they do everything on their computers and phones. So I took it out of his room, and then I hit him.
I don't need good. You hit him with the TV.
The TV.
I don't know. It's like viewing is so different now.
Yeah.
And like explaining that to kids is just forget about it. But like now it's got to be. It's mostly you watch only things that are really good. You know what I mean? Like you hear from other people what people are watching, and then that's what you watch. And so like it's hard to like find a show unless somebody tells you about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't even trust advertising for shows where people will be like, "Oh, this is a new show. This is blah blah blah," because I don't know if it's going to be good.
Right.
You know, and you also now have to like go out and find the service that has the show. And pay them for a month or whatever to see it.
You don't want to watch it, but then you don't have Hulu, and you're like, "Oh, well, I don't have Hulu." We get a lot from the listeners is thank you for turning me on to the show, because we'll talk about different shows that we like, and then they'll get into it and they'll be like, "Yeah, this is a great show." So it's exactly what you're saying. You have to have a friend who tells you this is good.
And my rule is once I hear it 3 times from different people, then I'll check it out.
Yeah,
you know? Like The Boys was a show like that for me.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
My kids were like, "Oh, you got it is crazy."
Yeah.
You know.
I tried to I go, if you can, my son doesn't like to watch movies. He doesn't like to sit down and watch TV. I told him you would love The Boys if you just sit down and watch the first 5 minutes of when he runs into that girl and kill. I go, you'll, and I couldn't even keep him there to watch the beginning. Like kids are just all over the place.
That's my big thing. Is if somebody tells me a show and they go, give it like 4 episodes, I go, nope. You got to give me in the first episode. If you don't give me in the first episode, I'm not watching 3 more.
Yeah. No, I do watch a lot of pilots.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I bet up all those people who write pilot episodes and think this is my thing and then it never goes anywhere, or somebody buys it and just shelves it. That's got to be the worst.
Has there ever been a show that you were in for the pilot and you're like, this is definitely going and didn't go?
No, but I mean, I knew shows that I was on that this is not going to last.
Right.
Like I knew that feeling.
Yeah. I've been that way in radio.
Michael Richards' show, for instance.
Oh,
his show after Seinfeld. I was like, nah, this is not gonna make it. This dude
That's so hard. It's got to be so hard because you're Kramer. You're Kramer, and now you're something else.
Yeah,
you know.
Here's the problem with that show was that, and my issue with them when I took the job, it was a single camera pilot that they showed me.
Yeah,
where he was a detective, and it looked different from Seinfeld.
Yeah, and
then I was like, oh, this will be good because he's goofy, he's funny. It's different from Kramer. He's got to solve a crime every week, so it's like a mystery to it too. And then when we got to the upfronts, which is the thing where we present all the shows to the press and everything, we're doing a question and answer thing on stage with the writers, Andy Robbins, and Spike Ferriston, who wrote it for Seinfeld.
Yeah.
When somebody from the press said, "So understand that the show's going to not be a single camera; it's going to be a 3-camera live studio show now." And they go, yeah, the network asked us if we could change it to that.
And no one tells you?
Nobody told me. And I look down at Andy and I'm like, and this is like in front of the press. And I go, really?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, it's going to be a 3-camera. And I just sat back.
Oh, that's disappointing.
And I was just like, this is not in my head.
What you signed up for.
This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
This is not what I signed up for. And then it was hell every day working there.
Oh, what a miserable.
It's the only job I asked to be fired from. I went to Michael Richards and said, let me out of this, please. I got my son was just born. I'm like living in Venice Beach. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm young, I'm healthy.
Don't bring me down with this show.
Don't don't sink me with this thing.
Gee, do you remember when Howard Stern left terrestrial radio?
Mm-hmm.
They asked me if I would produce the David Lee Roth show. And I said no.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job at the time. And they were like, you don't have a job? And we're offering you a job in market number 1 to work with David Lee Roth, and you're saying no? And I said, and they go, can you tell me why? I go, yeah, because 6 months from now when you fire David Lee Roth, I don't want to be like, what happened to that funny guy that used to be with him? I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. I told my wife, I go, I know you want me to take this job, but there's no way this is going to make it.
Yeah. So, and it was a train. It was a train.
It was awful.
Because I was in New York and I listened to it maybe the first week after Stern left, because I listened to Stern all the time too. And yeah, it was a wasteland.
So the guy who offered me the job ends up being the guy who takes the job. His name is Al Dukes. He works for WFAN now.
Mm-hmm.
Al has the greatest goddamn stories about David Lee Roth ever. David Lee Roth wanted to put a hardwood floor in so that he could have ambient noise, because that's great for radio when you're trying to talk and somebody's side shuffling next to you. Or palm trees in the studio. And he said at the time everything was on carts, those little cassettes that they had, that way they'd stick in. He said David Lee Roth got mad. I was carrying a bunch of carts and he threw something at me and the carts went everywhere. And I picked up all the stuff, because then I would have been the guy who beat up David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
But then he said, the next day, David came into my office and he said, I'm sorry I had a bad day yesterday, and gave him $1,000 in an envelope. Right,
didn't you say David Lee Roth wanted the windows open too?
He wanted to try to open the windows on the 50-something floor or whatever.
Well, it tells you a lot about him, though, if he feels that after yelling at you, just giving you $1,000 is going to make it all better.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I stepped in you, I kicked you in the shin. Here's $2,000.
Yeah, enjoy it.
All right.
Right, as time went on, here's $10,000. Sorry, I gave you a black eye. That was. You got to make those choices. Are you a big Seinfeld fan like everybody else?
I watched it. Yeah, I'm a fan. Yes, I would say I was a fan. I like the comedy of it.
I just ask because recently I've seen them all a million times, but recently I start watching it every night before I go to bed on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And that goddamn Michael Richards, man, some of the things he reminds me a lot of him. He's Mike Kramer.
Yeah.
And but some of those facial expressions and those things, and as an improv guy, that is just genius.
Yeah.
If you can make somebody laugh with a, I mean, that's genius.
I'm not change subject too much, but I was on the airplane and I was watching that movie with Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, the newer one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it? It's like where she hooks up with a guy for the
kid.
kid.
Yeah. The parents want her to take the kid out, and get him out of his shell and stuff. Yeah.
And I worked with her on the Bill Engvall show, and she's great. I know her, not know her, but I love her. She's great. But I only laughed one time during the whole movie. I watched it on the plane.
Yeah.
And it was when the kid, did you see it?
Yeah, No Hard Feelings is what it's called.
No Hard Feelings.
I did see it. Yeah.
The scene where it's the first date and the kid is sitting in the booth and then somebody breaks the pool cue and it cracks and the kid jumps better than Jerry Lewis. I mean, this dude, and the rest of the movie, I was wanting to laugh and stuff. But that one thing, I was like, I would recommend watching the movie just to see that.
Yeah, that's strong.
He jumped so hard and it was like a million. Like as an actor, you just go. He had a million thoughts in that one second.
Yeah.
Somebody's attacking me. I'm gonna run. What is that noise? It was like a million thoughts went through his head, and you could see it in his face.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he's great.
Do you think like when you leave SNL? How come do they have any vehicles to offer you? Like, did they say like Seth Meyers went to do this show, they got to do that show? You seem like somebody that probably had their choice of what you wanted to do.
When I left, Ladies Man just came out, didn't do great. It was number 4, like in the box office, a couple weeks, and to me it was fine. I'd never expected it to be like Wayne's World or anything.
Sure,
but after I left. I had a development deal with Lauren's company, with Broadway Video. And that was through NBC. And then NBC asked if I would do a Michael Richards show.
Okay.
And so that will fulfill my obligation with them.
I think that I still associate you with Saturday Night Live. Not that I see you on the show all the time, but I always felt like you were the running things behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like you would be the guy that Lauren would go, well, let Tim do it. Tim will handle this. They say sometimes that Seth Meyers or one of these girls would be the next person to take over for Lauren when he leaves. Tina Fey. I always see you as being that guy in my head. I don't know anything, but I always just thought you were like the second in charge kind of guy.
Wow, thank you. That's a compliment.
Because you have a good air about you as somebody who can be very funny, but also knows when it's time to do the right thing. You know what I mean?
Well, if they are considering executive producer for SNL, I would like to throw my hat in the ring.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Did you write it? Did you, whenever you got on there, were you a feature player? Were you a writer? Did you come in as a full cast member, or how'd you?
I came in as a writer, and then I was hired as a writer, but then when I got there, Lauren wanted me to also act.
Yeah.
And so I was an actor and a writer, like my first year. So I had to actually write for the show. And so I wrote sketches that I did not perform in. I contributed to other writers' sketches. I contributed to rewriting sketches and stuff. And
Can I ask you who wrote Shirt in a Can? Because that's one of your funniest.
Thank you.
I always think about that, and that is so for your reactions that it's burning.
Yes.
And that means it's working. Yeah. It is one of the funniest.
That is Matt Piedmont.
Oh, yeah.
He's a writer. He wrote that.
Yeah, you did a great job. I always think of that. That is such a funny commercial parody.
Thank you.
When you, and I'm not asking you to, I like Pete Davidson, but when you see a guy like Pete Davidson who has become such a celebrity, and he did not do John Belushi stuff. He did not do Chevy Chase stuff. Like, are you like, how the hell did this happen? And I don't mean that in an insulting way, just because you've seen it all,
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. If people in the audience come to my show this weekend, because I talk about that.
Oh, you do?
I do, yeah. And I don't know Pete Davidson personally. Like, we have friends in common with each other in the music business and in SNL.
Right.
But he's not somebody that I feel like I know well enough that I feel like, I have to be nice or protective.
Okay, good.
But I am, we're in a fraternity together. So
Sure.
I am like, I there's a certain level of like hands off. Like, I'm not going to.
Yeah, you don't want to beat them up. But
Yes.
but I'm asking you, like, there's been Saturday Night Live members where, you're like, oh, that guy kind of sucked, and this guy kind of sucked. Different season. I mean, that's going to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson, I didn't think sucked, but I didn't think he did anything where you were like, God damn, that Pete Davidson skit was great. Like, Galvin's not recalling any Pete Davidson skits from a year ago. Yet he has become this massive celebrity.
Yeah.
It's very
It's
weird.
Yeah. Like I said, I talk about it in the show.
Okay, good.
Here's the thing too, is that for me is I think now actors and comedians and like people know they have their agendas set already.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that actors and people who come in the show business as a child, you fantasize about what you would be like if you were famous.
Yes.
And what I really believe it because I know I did. And my thing was like, I don't want to be huge. I just want to be a working actor.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be nice to people.
That's a smart goal. Do you really feel that way? Or because I came in on radio and I was like, I just want to be like a behind the scenes guy or be like a little bit player. But the truth is, and deep down inside, I want to be a superstar.
Yeah.
So do you really feel that, or do you think like I'm approaching it this way, but I want to be the biggest? I want to be the next Eddie Murphy.
I think the thing that you feel inside that you don't tell people is the thing that you really want.
Yeah.
Like you don't tell people I want to be a big actor so I can date hot actresses.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But
sure.
you might say I want to be the best comic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the dating actresses is a side,
Sure.
benefit of it. But yeah, I kind of think you sort of like know what you want to be like if you make it. You know? And I feel like, I think everybody made that choice, and here's the point I was trying to make is that I think now actors and comedians are more, they know how it works. So like when I came into SNL, I did one TV commercial before I got hired at SNL.
So you gotta figure it all out.
I figured it all out. When I got there, I had to go take sketches from the files to learn how sketches are written.
Right.
Because we just did it on our feet. And so now, and I didn't know about, market myself then.
Yeah.
These guys come into it. They have already know how to make films.
Yeah, you had no social media either.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so some like the Lonely Island guys came into it already knowing how to make commercials and films and stuff. And so they already are more advanced at it than I was.
Gotcha.
And not to say like Pete was more advanced at like.
It's a different time.
Yes. I think it's a different time.
People ingest it in a completely different way.
Yes. And so it was a new world for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when he was younger, I don't think he was thinking like, oh, the internet will turn me into a
right. No, but it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
He was there. But it's a trip.
It's interesting to watch. I grew up in Staten Island. He's from Staten Island. So I went to the SNL after party one time, and it was his 21st birthday that day. And he came walking in, and I was so excited to see him. We locked eyes, and I went like this. And I don't know why. I just went like this, and he goes, and he came over to me, and my wife goes, "Did you just summon him like a waiter?" I go, "I think I did. I don't know what did happen, but he was a nice kid. Like I don't know. Good luck to him. I mean, the idea that he is banging the hottest chicks in Hollywood, and he and I both have these saggy ass butthole eyes is a really just a goal for all of us. He's setting the new precedent for butthole eyes.
Yeah, good. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I will say like he's always been nice to me. Like whenever I went there, like I sort of know Kid Cudi, this rapper.
Yeah, I know.
And
I love the way you said it. Like these white kids aren't gonna know Kid Cudi.
I don't know. You're in radio, so I kinda figured you would. But so I know I met him the first time through Kid Cudi, and then we all did the Sandler thing in DC this past year, and I didn't really hang out with the people that were on the show that much. So I didn't really get to see him. It was weird. I'll just tell you quickly. Like we did this thing in DC for Sandler, and he really wanted me to be part of it, but I was busy, and I was like, I don't know if I can do it, And so they said, can you do this announcer? Just be the announcer. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I did the announcements, taped it and everything. And then turned out that I could actually be at the thing in Washington.
Yeah.
And so I hid from everybody. And we were all sitting. And even when we all set up in this dais on the side, it was like Sandler and his wife and his kids and Ben Stiller and Judd Apatow and then Tim Hurley, his wife and myself. And I was on the very end. And there was a point where I had to do a little announcement on camera. And only Hurley, he and his wife knew I was there. And so I started doing the thing, and it cuts to me. And you can look down the thing, and everybody's like,
he's here. Yeah.
Where you been? It was so funny.
That's
man.
great.
I hid from everybody. I just stood in a little corner, like with the waiters and stuff.
That's
like
awesome.
for 2 hours.
Did you have somebody who you were like best buddies with when you worked there?
Best buddies.
Like everybody seems to pair up all the time, like they writing partner or
I think
sharing an office with
in
this
my
guy.
early years, it was me and Farley and Mike Myers because we knew each other from Chicago.
Yeah.
And then as we all got a little bit more comfortable, like, well, me and Farley always were close, but me and Rock hung out and still hang out. I see Rock a lot. Sandler is probably, and then I wrote The Ladies' Man with Dennis McNicholas and Harper Steele. And I would say Harper was probably my closest, like, writing buddy.
I was telling you off the air, our buddy Ian Beckles, who used to play for the Buccaneers, is such a Ladies' Man fan. He was like, "Hey man, I might slide by your joint when Tim Meadows is there." I was like, "Yeah, go on by. This would be great."
Yeah.
Tim Meadows is going to be at Side Splitters this weekend, 960-1197 or sidesplitterscomedy.com. You make reservations, you go pick your seat online, go and see Tim. Very funny gentleman. I remember last time you were here was very funny, and I got to tell you. Have you been on the podcast with Sandler and not Sandler, Spade and
Dana?
Dana,
Yeah. I did like one of the early episodes, but I want to go back and do it again.
Yeah, because you got stuff to say, man.
It was the first few for them, and they were still sort of getting it together.
Right.
And I kind of felt like I didn't talk the way I should. I should have been more like forthright.
Right.
I felt like those guys were sort of nervous about it having to be funny. It's not like, it wasn't like this where it's like,
Talking,
it'll come. The comedy and the humor and the warmth will come. But I think they felt like in the beginning, like, oh, we got to jump and say a lot of stuff. And I just let them go. I was just like, I would say something and they would comment and then we'd laugh or whatever. And then it was over. But then when I heard it, I was like, I didn't really tell my journey on SNL.
I think that I enjoy hearing people's journeys. It doesn't matter what it is, but SNL is more exciting, I think, than for most things. And to hear how you guys come from, whether it was writing or college or at Second City, and to make it to be on this great institution for so many years, is great. I love to ask these questions. I know you guys never love to like to answer, but who's like the worst host that you had to deal with?
Well,
nobody's
listening. But I mean, it's pretty well known. Steven Seagal, during my period, was just not a fun person to work with. No, I can't really say
that's good. If it's good, if Seagal's the one that sticks out.
Yeah, and Baldwin was Alec Baldwin is my favorite. He was my favorite. Christopher Walken was also my favorite.
Yeah,
I love Christopher Walken because you could just write for him.
Yeah,
and he made everything better. And Jim Carrey was the same way. He came in and hosted once, and we would do this thing where you can't resubmit sketches more than a couple times if it doesn't make it. Everybody resubmitted sketches when Carrey was there because he made everything better. And the most famous one was the lifeguard in the small swimming pool, sauna thing. Steve Coren is that writer. He wrote that year, like a couple of seasons before. Never got a laugh at the read-through table. Did it with Jim Carrey. Didn't get a laugh at the read-through table. But Jim Carrey, I think, told Lauren, I like this and I can make this funny.
Oh, that's great.
And we did it. It destroyed. It destroyed.
Yeah, if
it
you
was
know,
unbelievable.
It's so funny because you write it and you're like, it'd be good at this, Jim Carrey. And when you have that opportunity, you go give it to him.
Let him run with it. Here, please turn my Pinto into a Ferrari.
I always think, because I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, and I remember when Springsteen was on, and I think, man, that's got to be such a great bonus to be able to see all these awesome bands.
I have to show you a video on my phone. It's really funny because I like Springsteen, right? I had this cool experience with him. I was at this gym in New York when he was being sued by a roadie, like back in New York, like years and years ago. And he had to go to court. I was in this gym, and this guy comes over and says, "Hey, can you spot me on the bench over here?" And this is Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, sure I can. So I go and I spot him. He's lifting weights. I don't know if he knows me or not.
Right.
Do it. Bam. It's on an off week from SNL. I go back into SNL first writers meeting where I was sitting around. Sandler goes, "Hey, guess who I worked out with at the gym? Bruce Springsteen." And I'm like, "No way, I did too." And then he came to the show, And he remembered, he knew it. He was like, "Hey, my workout partner."
Oh, really? So he
Yeah.
knew. Yeah.
And then the coolest thing, I was at this like after party at an Emmy show or something with some friends of mine. Bruce Springsteen is leaving the party with his wife and small entourage. And I jokingly go to my friend, I go, Bruce was going to come back and say hello because I worked with him a little bit.
Right.
He passes us, glances over at me, turns around, comes back and says hello.
Wow.
With his wife.
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" Good to see you. I'm like, "Hey, man, thank
Hey, you
you."
spot a guy one time, you're a friend for life.
All right.
That's
That's over, right?
yeah.
He's touring now. I go to Detroit. I'm in Detroit. That's where I live now. He's playing at the Little Caesars. Me and I get tickets from me and a friend. We're watching it, and I go, Bruce, he'll see me in the audience. He'll recognize me. Swear to God. I'll show you the video.
Yeah.
Because I was taping it while he's doing it. He's walking by me singing something, and then he looks down and he goes, reach down.
That's all. What a great feeling that is, man.
And I was like,
that's
just like looking at me like singing the song and stuff.
That is so awesome.
It was the coolest, man.
You know what's weird is that I've told this story a bunch of times. My son's 17, 25 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a fight in Las Vegas, and I was there with a guy who had access, and I was walking with him, and all of a sudden I'm in the celebrity access. Matthew Broderick walks by me, all these people walking by.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z comes walking by, and this is before Beyonce and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just blurred out as a fan, "Oh, there's Jay-Z." And Jay-Z turned around and he goes, "Hey, what's up, baby?" Came over, gave me a hug, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. Probably about 5 times since then, I've been in the same place as Jay-Z, and he beelines over to me. "How you been, baby?" And everybody goes, "How do you know Jay-Z?" And I go, "I don't know Jay-Z." He used to come to the Bucks games to see Warren Sapp and the guys.
Yeah.
And I brought it right up in the press elevator. And one day I went to the elevator, and it was Jay-Z and Russell Simmons and this giant bodyguard, and they would cram the elevator. But when Jay-Z and the bodyguard and everybody got in there, they stopped and said, "On Jay-Z goes, no, he good, pull me in." And I was like, "What is going on?" I'm dying to know. So we go to Orlando to see a show a couple years ago. Me and my buddy Pete, my wife, and it's a stage in the round, but we're sitting right in front, and Pete's like, he's gonna see you and probably call you on stage. Like, "Oh yeah, probably," because we're so tight,
Yeah.
At the end of the thing, they turn the lights out, and he comes out and he says hi to everybody. He looks, he goes, I see you," and he points at me, and we're like, "What is?" I don't know who he thinks I am or what it is, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's
so
amazing.
Those moments that you have with the celebrities. I mean, clearly Bruce knows you, but whatever Jay-Z thinks I am, I'll take it for the rest of my life. It's so funny.
Is so cool.
I
man.
know.
Maybe you just like your face is like burnt into his brain, like the way
from the first time.
Yeah, the way crows, like you don't mess with a crow because it'll always remember you.
Jay-Z's much like a crow.
Jinkle and Jay-Z. Everybody always tells me maybe they think you look like a bodyguard or some mob guy or something that he knew from back in the day. And I'm like, whatever it is, he's nice to that guy, so I'll take it.
That's great.
Tim Meadows, is great to talk to you, man. I believe that if you don't get on that podcast again, you should do your own stories podcast, because you got a lifetime of stories to tell. Thanks. And a great career. But very funny comedian. Go see him at Side Splitters this weekend. Sidesplitterscomedy.com, 960-1197. I'm going to wrap this show up because we are so goddamn late. I know we have commercials that have to be played. The Bone Bonus is coming here in a second. So have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday. Goodbye.
Yo, cat.